Today we're going to talk about doing the work, doing the homework, making sure you put in the effort ahead of time to make sure that what it is you're trying to do goes well, and practicing the flow, practicing the examples, practicing getting into a topic, coming out of a topic. It's actually quite a lot, a lot of time, but it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
Welcome back to In Residence. I'm Keith.
And I'm Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Keith.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
We just spent several hours getting ready to record.
Yes.
We're attempting video,
Yes.
so we'll see how that goes.
We will.
And you're being very patient, listening to me direct and sit here, sit there. How does this look?
Yes.
So yeah, trying to calm down. But
Good.
yeah, you got to do it, right?
It's true.
Which is kind of what we're going to talk about, right?
Yes.
Like kind of putting in the work,
Exactly.
doing the homework.
Doing the homework, putting in the work.
Yeah, we'll get to that, right? But any updates?
So I have finished my first 2 weeks at my new job, and that's going well. We set up our apartment in Green Bay.
Dining set showed up here.
Yes, the dining set showed up here.
Every time I say that, I feel like I'm talking about like something on The Price is Right.
Oh.
Our fabulous new dining set.
I love The Price is Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so you got the chairs in your car?
Yep. So I got the chairs in my car, and let's see. Still have the table in the garage. That'll come at some point.
I'll get the truck.
You'll get the truck, and we'll do that. And I don't know if there is anything else. How about you? Anything going on with you?
Nope. Let's move on to our topic.
Okay, sounds good. This morning, we were having coffee and talking about the podcast episode.
The one that we tried to record?
Well, just in general, the one today, because we said, well, we need to talk about it because we tried to record one last week and it didn't go so well.
Right.
You and I decided to hop on a Zoom call and try and record it. So you here and me in Green Bay.
Yep.
And so we both had our own setups. We had laptops and phones going, trying to record. And when it came down to it, it kind of petered out. The topic that we thought was going to be really good just kind of fizzled.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you had an idea.
I did.
And we didn't prepare for it, like together, or you didn't tell me about it really beforehand, except for I have an idea, I'll let you know. And then, right, we weren't.
Well,
we didn't really do our
I
job.
sent you a couple texts, like, this is what I'm thinking. Here's a couple articles.
I don't remember.
But we didn't really.
What article? I don't remember getting any articles.
Oh,
this is why like our preparation needs to be like.
That's why it's important.
A little different, or like, because like a text, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. That's
like email to me sometimes.
Right.
Like I'm not really gonna pay attention.
Right. And especially now that we aren't in the same house every single day and every single evening, we have to be more diligent and more clear about what it is that we want to talk about, and more patient and carve out that time.
Intention, right? We need to be intentional.
We need to carve out the time to actually talk about it, think about it, prep for it.
Yeah. It's like what professionals do. They look like they're winging it, but a lot of hours went into them making it look casual.
Yeah.
That comes with experience and preparation and putting in the hours.
Right.
This is where we forgot that step, obviously, because we're really busy and we're like, well, we need to record. We need to get together and connect. But yeah, it's different not being around each other every single day for the 6-8 hours that we are used to, at the end of the day. So
Yeah,
I think we learned our lesson.
I think so. Thinking just a little bit about that, because we just experienced it with podcast last week. When you were growing up, did you ever have a situation or time when you either didn't put in the work or didn't prepare and it didn't go so well?
So I used to be the kid that could put things off and then get it done at the last minute. And that's easy in school, like when you're a kid. But that's not a great habit to have as you get older. So I don't think so, but like I can think of lots of examples where planning and preparation is extremely helpful.
Hmm.
Like I was thinking of music, right? Like being on stage and knowing that you did not do your job to rehearse and prepare, it does not feel great, or being out of condition when you're playing hockey. Like, oh, I did not do the work in the off season. Like this is going to be a rough few weeks until I get back at it. That's probably the closest thing I can think of is playing a sport or playing an instrument. I
Hmm.
didn't do my job in the off season, whether it was for music or sport. And now my coach or my instructor is like, they can tell. And I'm like, I'm ashamed and embarrassed. So,
Yeah, I get that. I know we were both music majors. We often did different rehearsals or things like that with especially singing. So I was in choir and women's chorus and things like that. I often did the work, but sometimes, maybe especially if it was in a different language, like French or Italian, I maybe didn't have all the words
under you, yeah.
under me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when you're in a big group, it doesn't matter as much. Like it does matter because you don't want to let anybody else down, but you can kind of get the vowel or something like that. And so it doesn't feel as hard. Maybe if you mess or trip a
You
little.
can get off the consonant really fast and just go to like the vowel sound
Yeah.
and
And
get by.
right. When I was in women's chorus, we went to France, Spain, and Italy for a tour. And I remember there was this one song, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but at the beginning, I didn't have all the words down, and there was a part where we actually went out and stood in the aisle. And so we were a choir, but we were actually a lot of single voices out in the audience. And
Yeah.
that felt much more revealing. So if you did
Vulnerable, right?
vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? Because everyone could hear the collective voices, but the people near you could also hear you
Right.
individually. And so the first couple times we did that, I'm like, okay, I really have to make sure that I practice and I know the language and the words and it got better and better. I don't remember it being like something going wrong necessarily, but I remember practicing a lot, especially when I knew I had to somewhat stand alone, even though we were singing together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we talked about this morning was how important it is to put the time in and put the effort in so it can look effortless.
Hmm.
And I've been thinking about that because oftentimes the people that make things look as seamless and as flowing as they do, it's people that have put in that work, put in that time, and have put in the reps, either from an experience standpoint or practice standpoint, that can then make it look effortless. I know that's one thing I try and do, especially if we're doing, say, I'm doing a presentation for a large audience or a large group. I will practice and practice and practice so I can get past the here are the words I'm going to say, here is the flow I'm going to say it in. I want it to go beyond that. here are the words, here's the order, I have it memorized, and now I'm going to go bullet by bullet. I want it to be flowing. I want it to be almost conversational.
Mm-hmm.
And so for it to look effortless, I really do put in a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to say, practicing what I'm going to say, getting it in the right order, and then repetition, repetition, repetition. You probably wake up hearing me talking to myself in my office downstairs and things like that. But I mean, I find too that it's not good enough for me to simply just know it and think about it in my head, especially if I'm going to be doing a speech or a presentation. I want to say it out loud. And so I will be on my feet. I'll be presenting like I would be presenting and practicing the flow, practicing the examples, practicing getting into a topic, coming out of a topic. It's actually quite a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of time. But
yeah,
it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you level up, right? And I mean, you just need to get the reps in, and it's just like setting up the cameras today. What a pain in the butt. I did not think it was going to take as long as it took, but it did.
Yeah, I gave you quite a bit of time because I was packing up some stuff. I put the chairs in the car. I did the dishes. I thought, okay, I'm going to do all these things. That'll give them enough time to kind of tinker around and get things set. But everything takes longer than you think.
It gave me enough time to tinker, get it set up, realize it wasn't what was going to work. Then you got down here. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it this way. That didn't work. Kind of went back closer to what I started with, but then switched the microphones around and this, and then switch that. And then you're like, I'm going to dust this. I'm going to dust this. And I'm like, well, I have to move this and I have to move that. And so it's just like, but it's like, if we keep putting it off, it's never going to happen.
Right.
And so it was a little frustrating that it was taking too long.
Mm-hmm.
It was like create a little, not maybe stress a little bit or something, or animosity of like, oh, why is this taking so long? Let's just hurry up. Is this worth it? And it's like, hold on. Oh, take a breath and just like, it's a repetition. And it's like, even if it goes poorly, at least we did it this time.
Yep.
And the next time will be better, right? Like, it's just, that's like what I have to tell myself like all the time is, this is this time, and it's setting me up for better the next time.
Right. Well, I think that's a good framing because we're recording, and even when we came into it, I think I said to you, I just said, well, let's stop worrying about it. And maybe none of this actually ever sees the light of day.
Right. I mean, the audio I can edit easily, and nobody will know if we stop for 5 minutes because something fell over or, something goes wrong. It's like, I just edited it out.
Yeah.
With video, it's a little harder to keep the continuity. So I'll have some interstitials or something like
you go.
Like the podcast artwork or something, just like have it like wipe across or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
A little creative.
But like, I'll never figure it out if I don't try.
Right.
So, I mean, that goes back to like our first episodes that we're re-releasing.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't start, you can't get better. You can't improve. So that's why like the prepping and planning, and that's obviously been on my mind too, because of Seth Godin's new book that came out.
Sure.
You do strategic planning for a job, and focus on all these things. And so it's front of mind. And then we had that little kerfuffle where we tried to do the thing that we do, and it's like, oh, we didn't do the planning process with. No wonder it doesn't feel right. And we're like, oh, that didn't really work.
No, yeah. I mean, last week we finally did it. And I think, part of me almost feels like, did we not put in a lot of time to prepare? One, because it was different. But then two, part of me is like almost wondering, did we not put a lot of time in to prepare? Because if it went well, then, oh, good, it went well. But if it didn't, it's like, all right, well, that's fine. We kind of knew it wasn't going to go well.
Oh,
Do you know
that,
what I mean?
yeah, that reminds me of Mark Maron. He's talking about, he's like, do you know those people that prepare for everything? And like, what's up with that? I just come out here and I wing it, and if it goes poorly, well, I didn't prepare. If it goes amazing, it's like, well, I pulled it off. It's just like so funny, but it's like needing to pull off like a miracle to get something to work.
Yeah.
It's not a good strategy,
No.
simply going about working a plan and giving yourself enough time so that you don't feel stressed out, I think is a better way to go. And like a small win is that we actually set it up.
Mm-hmm.
It took a little longer than we wanted, but we have some time.
Yep.
It's growing pains, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of a rehearsal, right?
Yeah. It's like rehearsal. Like, yeah, like when we're talking about, we were kind of like getting ready for this, but also debriefing kind of like, well, what went wrong last time? And, a little bit, and started thinking of like, well, all these different events and types of jobs, obviously, they work a plan. And I was like, okay, a band shows up to a venue and they have a crew that helps them set up, helps with lighting, helps with sound check. And then like we go to the Indy 500, think of how many plans and people it takes to put on that event.
Yeah.
It probably takes a long, like at least 3/4 of a year to, if not all year round,
right,
of teams working on that one weekend.
Sure.
Even like thinking back to like band and choir,
Right.
it's like the band director doesn't show up and say, all right, we're going to have a concert tomorrow. It's like, no, they start in September and they say, we're going to have a performance in November.
Yeah.
And they go about working the plan of getting all the kids on the same page with what they're playing and lessons and practice schedule and all, it's a plan.
Yeah.
Work the plan, create a plan, and figure out what success means.
Sure.
And then work backwards from that, and then start at the beginning. So, I mean, that's what we're really trying to do, right? With the podcast and our project.
Right. And so we were talking a little bit about our podcast, and what we found our process to be is we always start with a spark of an idea. So either you or I have either encountered something throughout the week, read something that interested us that we want to talk to the other one about. But there's a spark, right? A spark of an idea is typically the first thing of how we get to our episode each week. From there, we meet and kind of talk about it. And I I wrote down meeting with quotes, but it is a meeting.
Yeah.
Typically over coffee, right? Pretty informal, upstairs on the couch and chairs, something like that. But starting to talk through it to see, is there enough?
It's informal, but it's integral.
Yeah.
I think we really understood, like, oh, with all the new things that are going on, we kind of missed that because it was baked into our day to day.
It was.
And now that's shifted, and we're still in the shift. I was telling somebody earlier today, it's all still so new that it doesn't even feel like it's the new normal yet, because it's still shifting.
Right.
I think in a month it'll finally be like, oh, this is what it's like weekly. Oh, okay. But like right now, it's like, I'm still not sure what's happening. I think she's coming home Friday, but what if Laura gets stuck in a meeting and she doesn't get out of work until 6:30 or 7? Like, I don't want you driving home like tired and in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I want you home.
Right.
But, I want you to be safe. So anyway, you were saying the informal meeting is still a meeting.
It is.
And I was like, oh yeah, it's integral to the process.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. And then the other thing that we need to do each week is that after we have that meeting or that time to connect and talk about the topic, we both need to go away and think a little bit more about what does it mean to each of us. What have we read that connects? What questions might we have about it? And what are some examples of how it plays out for us or has played out for us? to try and make sure that we can bring ourselves and be good conversationalists.
Yeah, I took some notes and I took some time. I went out on my walk but now all my notes are on the devices that we're using to record.
I know. I looked at you before we started and I'm like, is this a good idea?
It'll be good. I think you wrote enough down when we were chatting
Hope so.
this morning. So, but yeah, you have to do the work.
Right.
I mean,
because sometimes showing up isn't enough.
Right.
In this case, right?
Absolutely.
When you're trying to create something together.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing that we talked about a little bit was if other people are trying to think about what are those things in their life that maybe need planning. So this is what I wrote down. What are the things in your life that need practice sessions or rehearsals? Because not everything, I don't think you need to be super diligent and have practice sessions for everything in your life.
No, get the laundry done, get the dishes done, make sure everything gets clean,
Right.
But automate the stuff that. Like automate as much as you can so that you can really use the things that only you can bring to the table, when it matters.
Right.
So do you have some answers for that? Or
No, that was just a question that I thought would be good to have people ask themselves.
Yeah.
Of what are those things that are important in your life that you want to take that extra time to make sure you practice, you rehearse, you show up for yourself and put in that extra work ahead of time.
I mean, one thing for me that's been on my mind and that I've actually been doing that with is getting out for my walk.
Yeah.
I think I've only missed a couple days over the last maybe 3 weeks or so.
Okay.
That's helping because one of my health goals, but also it's a great time for me to think or to research. It's a new thing for me is getting my walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's paired with us starting our new little adventure together too. So
yeah.
What else did you write down?
The other question I wrote is, so I wrote, what do you learn about how you prepare for things and how you can better set yourself up for success? And so really boiling it down to, do you know what your process is and how you prepare? Do you know how you set yourself up in the best way possible to make sure that you are prepared for what you want to do?
I've been writing that down in my daily calendar of take time to prep. Take time to think about how am I going to proceed.
Yeah.
And more often than not, I'm like, okay, I forgot to do that. Okay, move it forward. It's make time tomorrow.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to do it on my walk, but I listened to a book, which is good. But it's just like if we put off trying to record video again, even if we don't use this, I would still be that far from doing it.
Right.
And so even 10 minutes of this or that, just pencil it in and do it.
Yes.
It's what I've been kind of telling myself for the last week and a half. What is the saying? Sometimes it's better to have good questions than the right answers.
Yeah.
And so asking yourself these questions of okay, how am I going to prepare for this? Or what can I show up for myself to help me get further along? That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to think through digging deeper into this topic of planning. I mean, have you ever had a time when, other than last week with the podcast, when you've had a project and you didn't prepare and it went really poorly?
I can't think of one.
You can't think of one?
You asked me that already. Do you have something you want to share with the class?
No, not necessarily. I'm trying to think because
I got a D in chemistry in college.
Okay.
So I definitely didn't prepare for chemistry. It was also at 8 in the morning on a Friday.
Okay.
So I mean, I kind of went into it knowing like I really don't want to be here, but I need this credit.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm. I mean, maybe that's an important lesson though, because sometimes you don't want to do the work of preparing if it's something that isn't interesting to you or doesn't seem important to you.
well, I mean, that makes me think of what Seth says is like, pick the game you want to play.
Right.
Like, don't pretend you're going to do something and then not do it. Actually, pick what you want to be doing and then put the work in. You know,
Yeah.
we get to decide. The
Right.
reason we don't is because then we're on the hook.
Right.
And so if I don't prepare, like we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's okay if it doesn't go well because I didn't prepare.
Right.
But for some reason I pull it off, it's like, oh, look how awesome I am. I pulled that off.
Mm.
I must be pretty talented.
Sure.
Where I want to focus more on developing the skills so that I know what I'm bringing with me to do the work I'm seeking to do.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, why wouldn't we prepare? Like answering that question. But I like the idea of like you pick the game you want to do, because that's kind of saying that you might not prepare if what it is that requires preparation isn't the game you want, right?
Yeah, yeah. If I don't want to do it, why would I prepare for it?
Right.
Instead of not preparing, I would say I'm not going to do that
Mm-hmm.
and just be upfront about it.
Yep. I think that's an important thing. Why else might we not prepare?
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure.
Yeah, something you said earlier about making it look effortless,
Yeah.
or like flowy.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we talked about perfectionism? That might be the next episode that's getting re-released.
Oh, okay.
But like the Parisian,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
what did it make us think of? The marvelous Mrs. Maisel, where
Yeah.
remember she's like her husband goes to sleep and then she gets up as soon as he goes to bed and like she puts her hair in curlers and does all this stuff. So she looks effortlessly beautiful in the morning and like sleeps with her hand up, like holding her head up so it didn't like do her curl. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my
I love
goodness.
that show.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember that archetype kind of
Sure.
resonated with you.
Yeah.
It probably does with me a little bit, but not as much as some of the other ones. But the reason I don't start is because once I start, it can't be perfect.
Right.
So like, I mean, like I had a hard time in the guitar program at first because I was afraid of making the wrong cuts because you can't put the wood back together most of the time. But if
Yeah.
you cut it wrong, it's wrong, and it's not going to be right. And you got to buy more material, So things like that, like that's where my head goes when
Okay.
I think about that. Is like, well, why wouldn't I? It's like, oh, because I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But like time constraints, uh,
Right.
lots of resources, like lacking resources, whether it's time, money,
True.
ability. Honestly, I think it sometimes just comes down to like maybe you're not willing to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe you do, but the people around you don't know how to support you
Right.
in the way you need. I mean, that could be another, right?
Yeah. Or just bad planning. Maybe you have the big meeting in the morning, but you end up going out with your buddies the night before, playing trivia all night and having wings.
Yeah.
So you're not well rested.
Right.
Hopefully that's a mistake you only have to learn,
Right.
like that's not going to pan out very well.
Exactly.
Something popped in my head when I was on my walk.
Yeah.
Like I'll hear a word, then I'll think of like the opposite. I think I brought this up last time where I tend to like pair things together and compare them and just play with it a little. So the phrase, is it a rut or is it a routine? So I don't know if I heard someone talking about
Oh, that's
routine. I think I
interesting.
heard someone talk about
Hmm.
routines and like being stuck. And I was wondering if that was maybe what caught us up last week was that we were out of our routine
We were.
and we were also kind of in a rut of not pushing forward and trying to record video with this. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, oh, okay, that's something I can ask myself. It's like, okay, do I have a routine? And this is just how I go about doing this because I know that this consistency pays off for me, like going for a walk. Like
Right.
that's routine. That's not a rut.
Right.
But sometimes it might feel like a slog, but just remind myself, like, no, this is going to pay off. Getting out, getting the steps in, this is going to get me where I want to go.
Yeah.
Whereas we didn't prepare as well as we maybe would have if we were in the same space last week.
That's true.
It kind of highlighted that, oh, maybe we're in a little bit of a rut where we were maybe getting away with not preparing as much just because we were close in proximity and a little more comfortable and didn't have as much floating over our heads with the transition yet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
I think too, once you let me know that you're going to help alleviate some of the pressure we were feeling to move, job transition, set up the apartment, podcast, be with family, like all those things. And you said, okay, I'm remixing and doing some re-releases to help give us a little bit of padding or breathing room
Yeah.
with the podcast. And I thought, oh, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could have also maybe.
Oh, we had a little more time away. It was like our routine got interrupted with that, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. And we recorded in a closet.
Yeah. Which sounded
Which was it sounded really good, actually. We could record back in there.
I was pleasantly surprised at how easy the post-production went on that, actually.
That's good. Did I message you or just talk to you and I said, oh, wow, it sounded good?
Yeah. And I think I was like, well, thanks. Because like the way it came across, you're like, that actually sounded kind of good. I'm like, thanks. I think that's a compliment.
No, it is because we recorded in a closet.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I'm like, it's probably the best place to record, like even better than this room. Because there's a lot of clothes in your walk-in closet that absorb the sound.
Yeah, we could do that again.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. You said, is it a routine or is it a rut? And I'm interested, the idea of it being a rut, there's such negative connotations to that, but I also kind of get it. Even as simple as, depending on the time of year, I even get in a rut with our meal planning. I have 3 different kinds of soups I make.
Right.
Turkey chili. I make kind of a broccoli stem blended soup, which is tasty. And then soup toscana with sausage and kale and all those yummy things. Sometimes I feel like I get in a rut of what I make us to eat for the week. Now I guess maybe I'm out of the rut because I'm meal prepping for me and you're kind of meal prepping for you and the kids. And we still haven't figured out kind of how that works, but
it works however we want because you can do whatever you want where you are, and I can do whatever I want where I am.
That is true.
And everybody gets fed. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It still all works.
Yeah.
Being in a rut of doing those things, I guess when I feel like I'm in a rut with meal planning, or gosh, I'm making chili again. Oh, I'm making broccoli soup again this week. I guess the thing I do is I look on Pinterest. I think, okay, what other recipes look good? What sounds good? How do I get out of this food rut where I'm bored and just would rather order Jimmy John's than eat my chili, right? Something like that.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. But, where I'm like, oh, I'll just do something different than what I had planned because I'm bored of this. And I guess some of getting out of that is preparation a little bit, isn't it? It starts with that spark of an idea, saying, oh, what things sound good, doing a little research.
Yeah.
Right? And then getting the things that I need to make something different and new.
Yeah, I think you need a little more variety.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like I can eat very similar things very often.
Sorry.
Yeah. Like I can eat chicken every day.
And you do. I don't get it. I don't really love chicken.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Some of the soups, they're good, but I can't eat them every day.
Yeah.
They're not the thing that I gravitate towards.
Sure.
But part of that, having more variety means figuring out, okay, what do I need to prep? What do I need to portion? how much do I actually need, and do I need to freeze it? So it's
Yeah.
just working the plan.
Yeah.
Finding a good routine
Sure.
to get out of the rut, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the only real difference is, the routine is helping you get to where you want to go. Where the rut, you're stuck, and you can't. You're not really moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what was going through my head while I was thinking through it, like finishing my walk. Because I try to focus on the habits that I have and like what's a good routine for me, right? Like that comes up again and again. And it needs to, because if I don't think about how do I set myself up for a better tomorrow, today,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I fall into, I'm just going to have the same thing that doesn't lead to better. I'll end up having pizza or
Right.
the things that they feel great for a few seconds. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't feel great after having that. If I had taken a little more time to prep, it's a better decision for me.
Yeah.
Not trying to get all preachy about food,
No.
but it's a lesson I keep learning is like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. That doesn't feel good to
Yeah.
me.
You want to eat things that feel good
Yeah.
in your body.
And then
That's kind of where you're at.
there's always like a sometimes where it's like, oh, I'm gonna have a slice of that. Like that
Sure.
sounds good. Indulge a little, but
Mm-hmm.
if I'm consistent in the way that I operate the majority of the time, those little indulgences or whatever, they're not a problem.
Yeah.
What else do you got? Anything?
The one thing that I am thinking about a little bit, and it comes with preparation too, but meetings. And I think a lot of people have been in good meetings and meetings that are not so great.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of things that seem to work well and things that don't seem to work so well. It does make me think showing up to a meeting when you've realized that really whoever's leading it has not prepared at all. That's really kind of hard
Mm-hmm.
because you don't feel like you're as productive. There's not as much direction as you want there to be.
Yeah, I don't like being somewhere where I feel like it's a waste of my time.
Right.
That's a surefire way to get me disinterested. Is I'm like, oh, this could have been an email.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so there's just there's so many things on how to make meetings better and more engaging and everything from, oh, I'm trying to remember meetings, like I think they're called scrums, where it's just a quick 10 minutes standing up, touch base every day sort of meeting. Just the what you need to know right now to keep going to full on retreats. I will say when I was a new leader, I thought that one of the best things to do at a meeting with a team was to go around the table one by one and have people give updates from their area. And I got a lot of feedback about that. A lot of people didn't like it
Mm-hmm.
at all because, and honestly, I would say as a leader, it didn't take a lot of preparation
Right.
because people just reported out what they thought were the most important things from their area. There was no materials that had to get developed ahead of time for anyone to look at and have a conversation about during the meeting. So I did get feedback from some team members that just said, this is really a waste of time and it could just be an update sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tried it both ways. Some teams really like to hear people go around and give updates. There's other people that really don't like that. And so I haven't found the perfect mix of it. But I guess what I'm trying to say when I'm coming back to that idea of preparation, what I learned is as a younger leader, it was incredibly easy to prepare for a team meeting when all I had to do was have people go around the table and do updates.
Yeah.
Super easy.
I think that's your answer is like, oh, I took the easy way out
I
and I made
did.
everybody else, I wasted
Well,
everyone's time.
but I also don't think I don't think I knew a better way to do it because I hadn't always seen great meetings. I mean, I've seen some good meetings, but
There's nothing wrong with getting together and having everybody report every now and then.
right.
Face to face, hey, let's make sure that we're talking.
Yeah.
That's good. But I can sympathize with some of the people who are like, this could have been an email. Like, I have work to do,
Yeah.
right? And that's just it's a learning experience.
It is.
And it's a delicate balance because you don't want to pull everybody out of their daily routine of doing their work to all come to one room and have 50 people listen to one person talk one at a time. If everybody talks for 5 minutes, that's a lot of minutes.
Right.
That's a lot of time of like even just introductions. If something like that, where like an organization like you work in, most people know each other or at least have name tags on.
Possibly.
Well, not your new one. Your new one's pretty big, but I'm saying like there's got to be a better way.
I mean, meetings are important. They really are, but I think what I'm trying to say is sometimes preparation can be a good thing, not just for the person that's facilitating it, but also for the individuals that are participating in it. There's just a variety on that spectrum of not prepared at all, let's just wing it together, to almost too prepared and rigid where you stop having conversations that are fruitful.
Yeah.
You got to figure out what that balance is. I don't know why I decided to end on meetings. Can we end on a more fun topic?
Yes. Let's do it.
Okay.
What is it?
What is it? I was hoping you had something.
I just got numbed out by talking about meetings, apparently.
Oh no, you're just like, nope, I'm
Yep,
done.
pretty much.
I'm done. We can possibly end it with music.
Okay.
Today I was upstairs getting ready to watch my Packers, and Child 1 and Child 2 both came in with their electric guitars, and they looked at each other. They're like, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they started playing a song. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're playing Green Day. I was like, all right, this is what we're doing. And it was good. They did say, it's better with drums. So we need someone with drums. I did think though, wow, I'm like, when did you learn that? And I said, oh, we were practicing last night and we were preparing, right?
Yeah,
to play it for you.
You were on the couch.
I was. Yeah, I was so tired last night. I fell asleep at like 8:30.
You slept for like 4.5 hours on the couch.
I did.
And then went back and then went to bed.
I did. Yep. I caught up on all the sleep I needed to.
Yeah, they were down here rocking.
Yeah.
I put my earbuds in and I was doing stuff and you were just sawing logs.
Yep. But I think that is just an important lesson that maybe encapsulates everything we're talking about a little bit, is that for that to have gone well and for me to actually have understood and to know what it was they were playing, they needed to practice and coordinate and prepare together.
Yeah.
And the only reason that they did that was because they're passionate about music. And so I think some of those things were drivers for them to take the time to practice, to prepare, to rehearse before they played it for me. I don't know where they're going to go from here. I think they've decided they're going to start a band.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. That's kind of a maybe fun example of when you see that spark in somebody of, wow, this is important enough and I care and am passionate enough about it to go for it and spend my time getting better.
Yeah. They're not being told to do that. Yeah. They're choosing.
Yeah.
They're creating a plan and they're preparing.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
It is. Even Child 2 last weekend, he was playing me Sati. He learned there's a piece that I play from Sati, and he was playing it. I'm like,
on the guitar,
and I'm like, wait a second, I play that on piano. It's like, I know. I was like, oh.
It's like I looked it up.
And I learned it. It's like, okay. So just fun.
Yeah.
Maybe to wrap it up, we'd encourage everyone to think about what are those things that really drive you, that you're passionate about, that are worth your time preparing for, practicing, rehearsing. Go out and do it. Figure out what works for you. Your process might be similar to ours, or it might be something different. And if it's different, that's okay. You do you.
Yeah, just set aside some time and experiment and explore. All right, let's get out of here.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You know?
That just fell off.
Yeah, that's fine. Like that, I'll edit out.
See? There we go. Ooh,
Stop
jeez.
punching the microphone.
I'm just so frustrated. Grr.
Okay.
Just kidding.
You gotta stop bumping into things.
Okay. I wanted to give you a heart. Give you a heart.
Stop.
Okay.